This section will focus on the breach notification rule. Impermissible use or disclosure of unsecured PHI is assumed to be a breach unless the department is able to demonstrate that there is a low probability that the PHI has been compromised. This occurs through an investigation and risk assessment conducted by the department's privacy officer. All staff are required to participate in any privacy investigations. We must notify clients and the federal government of breaches. For large breaches, we must also notify the media. In addition, our business associates, such as outside parties that provide services for us or on our behalf, that involve access to protected health information, are now directly covered by HIPAA. The department's policy is to encrypt all laptops and other portable media. Encryption renders information unusable and unreadable. Unsecured protected health information means protected health information that is not rendered unusable, unreadable, or indecipherable to unauthorized persons through the use of a technology or methodology required by the breach notification rule. Where there is a privacy incident or complaint, the privacy officer will be looking to complete a risk assessment. The risk assessment under the final rule requires consideration of at least these 4 factors. 1. The nature and extent of the PHI involved, including the types of identifiers and the likelihood of re-identification. 2. The unauthorized person who used the PHI or to whom the disclosure was made. 3. Whether the PHI was actually acquired or viewed. And 4. The extent to which the risk to the PHI has been mitigated. Risk assessment factor number 1. Evaluate the nature and the extent of the PHI involved, including types of identifiers and likelihood of re-identification of the PHI. Social security numbers, credit cards, financial data, risk of identity theft or financial or other fraud, clinical detail, diagnoses, treatment, medications, mental health, substance abuse, sexually transmitted diseases, and pregnancy. Risk assessment factor number 2. Consider the unauthorized person who impermissibly used the PHI or to whom the impermissible disclosure was made. Does the unauthorized person who received the information have obligations to protect its privacy and security? Is that person a workforce of a covered entity or a business associate? Does the unauthorized person who received the PHI have the wherewithal to re-identify it? Risk assessment factor number 3. Consider whether the PHI was actually acquired or viewed, or if only the opportunity existed for the information to be acquired or viewed. For example, a laptop computer was stolen, later was recovered, and IT analysis shows that the PHI on the computer was never accessed, viewed, acquired, transferred, or otherwise compromised. The entity could determine the information was not actually acquired by an unauthorized individual, although the opportunity existed. Risk assessment factor number 4. Consider the extent to which the risk to the PHI has been mitigated. For example, obtain the recipient's satisfactory assurance that information will not be further used or disclosed via a confidentiality agreement, destruction, if credible, or reasonable assurance. In conclusion, we must evaluate the overall probability that the PHI has been compromised by considering all the factors in combination and more if needed. The privacy and risk area will utilize all investigative tools available to them to establish the information needed to complete the risk assessment. These investigative tools include monitoring and auditing of staff use and treatment of the systems that hold ePHI. Risk assessments will be thorough and performed in good faith. Conclusions must be reasonably based on the facts. If evaluation of the factors fail to demonstrate low probability that the PHI has been compromised, breach notification is required. When is risk assessment not required? A covered entity or business associate has the discretion to provide the required notifications following an impermissible use or disclosure of protected health information without performing a risk assessment. Depending upon the circumstances, the department may opt to do a notification following a privacy incident or privacy violation that does not rise to the level of breach. Breach notification is not required for PHI that is encrypted in accordance with the guidance that the Federal Department of Health and Human Services has provided. In certain situations, even though a privacy incident has occurred, there are safe harbors that will prevent the department from having to report a breach. A breach is treated as discovered on the first day the breach is known to the covered entity, or in the exercise of reasonable diligence, the covered entity should be aware of the breach. Notification time period for a breach begins when the organization did or should have known it existed. Here are a few examples of how privacy violations can occur. A document was faxed to the wrong location. Hello, this is Pizza Plaza on Stark Street. Did you mean to fax me this lab result for Fred Flintstone? An incorrect medical record number was entered. I guess I was just typing too fast. Or forgetting to verify client identity. There were 7 clients with the name Barney Rubble. I should have confirmed his date of birth.